It's Golden Hour Adventure Time, featuring everyday people doing extraordinary things. From the peaks of victory to the valleys of defeat, these are their stories. Now, from the back of the pack, your hosts, Justin and Robbie. Welcome to Golden Hour Adventures. Hey, you've waited this long for us to interview someone else. And guess what? The time has come. It's here. You no longer have to listen to Robbie and I jibber jab back and forth about who knows what, the Cowboy 200.
Life
leading up to the Cowboy 200 and then the anticlimactic DNFs from both of us. You don't have to listen to any of that anymore. And so today we got a super cool guest. I've personally been following this guy since when it comes to like ultra running, he's literally the ultra running beast. This is his name, Billy Richards, the ultra running beast. Welcome to the podcast.
How's it going, guys?
Good. So
hey, you had mentioned the Cowboy 200. I actually just did the 100-mile version of it.
I saw that. Yeah, I didn't even know you were out there, and I know we were talking before the 200, and had made it that far. Maybe we could have had a conversation, but
could have done this in person.
Yeah, I mean the timing could have been off. Though I know like a lot of the, like 200s didn't get to the halfway point by the time we started.
Yeah, I definitely would have never been anywhere near you guys. You would have finished like days in front of me. So the timing definitely wouldn't have worked out. But anyway. So I started following you 19 and you had a project that you were doing. And I believe it was you were trying to run an ultra every weekend for the entire year. Is that right?
Okay, so that project, I was trying to break Ed's record for the most 100 milers in a year.
Okay.
So that was kind of thrown together on the fly at the end of 2018. Yeah, so 2018 I was really big into like Spartan racing and stuff like that, and then I had a few ultras like peppered in there. And at the end of the year, I was doing this event called the Savage 7, and it was the first. So the Savage 7's down in Florida. It's in like the Ocala area. So it's basically like seven marathons in 7 days. But when I did it, it was the first year they offered an upgrade to a 50K option. So I was in the middle of doing 750Ks in 7 days. And every night I would go back to my hotel. And this is around the time. This was the time that David Goggins' audiobook came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would finish the race and I would go back to the hotel I was staying at. And I would listen to his audiobook and everything. And then he started to talk about how he went out and he broke that world record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours. But he preached how he was this regular guy that created this alternate persona called Goggins. So it kind of inspired me a little bit. And I started to think to myself, I'm like, okay, if this dude professes that he's just a regular guy and he can get to the point where he can chase like world records, I wonder what I could do. I came up with the idea to look up. I don't remember exactly what possessed it, but I only had 10 100-mile finishes at the time, and my recovery time was pretty good.
Only 10.
Well, I'm not saying that to be like but in context to what I was about to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, every time I've done a 100, my recovery time's been pretty quick on it. Usually by the next week, I'm ready to go again. I started brainstorming. I'm like, I wonder if there's a record out there for most 100s in a year. So then I looked it up, and I saw that Ed Ettinghausen, the jester, he ran 41 100s in 2014. This is before like me, Mike, and Walter, and then before Ed took it back. But like back then it was 41. So I looked at it, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to afford to do this, but, let me just start piecing it together week by week and see what happens. So, I mean, I didn't really have much rest going into it because, those 750Ks in 7 days were from Christmas to New Year's. So, I had just done that. I got it planned out. The first one I did was a Frozen Hellhole 100. I ended up winning the race. I drove to get there from New York to South Carolina, so it was like a 12-hour drive. I finished the race, and it was an even harder drive to get back because it was. I was pretty much hyped up on monsters and everything. I pulled over every half hour, put my head down for about 10 minutes, so I turned a 12-hour ride into about probably between 16 and 18 hours, something like that.
Wow.
And then,
That's a heck of a way to open this project with a win.
yeah. And then the following weekend, I kind of loosely planned this though. So like the following weekend, I wasn't originally going to do anything, but then I looked it up and it was a skydive ultra down in Florida. I go to do it and I'm like, there's no way I can afford a flight. I kind of looked it up on Priceline. Then all of a sudden I get an email saying that they have like last minute flight deals. So I'm like, all right, I got a flight down there for like 160, and then I got a rental car for 30 somehow for the entire weekend. And then I just kind of planned that on the fly. And the second race I did, the Skydive Ultra, which is the week after I won the Frozen Hellhole 100, I actually hit a PR time on my 100. So I was like, oh wow, that's interesting.
Wait, explain
So
what a skydive ultra is.
okay, so I didn't do the skydive portion of it, but it's in Clewiston. It's at an airfield. I believe it's like a 7.5 mile loop. You do however many times it takes to get 100 miles. It was either 7.5 or 10K. I don't remember exactly. But you do a skydive before the race, and then you go to the starting line. I mean, they do have the option, like I took, where you don't do the skydive, and that was the only reason I didn't do the skydive was pretty much like a money issue because it was like an extra $200 for the skydive.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But that and the weather wasn't the greatest either
Yeah,
because
it's
it
a
was pretty much
hell
like
of a way to
raining
start a.
sideways the entire time. And I think that's why I PR'd it too, because the rain kept me awake. Because I always used to have trouble like bomb. I would. I'm better now because I'm more consistent through the race. But like back in the day, I used to bomb through the first half of it, and then I would crash and burn in the second. But somehow come up with a finish. But that was race number 2, and then race number 3 was a Rocky Raccoon. So I ended up finishing that one, and then the fourth race was the Lone Star 100, which is I don't think it's around anymore, but it was part of the Franklin 200 series
Yeah,
or whatever.
I heard that's a
So
tough race.
yeah, no, it was a brutal course. Yeah, there was like 3 summit climbs we had to do, but after doing that, that was my fourth and 4 weekends. I It gave me the confidence that I was like, okay, I can do this. So, I started raising, I started throwing out fundraising sites. I ended up hitting my first 6 in a row, 6 weekends in a row before I ended up having like a weekend off. And then I hit my first 15 without a DNF. And then the body started to fall apart a little bit. And then around August, I ran out of money. I think I was at about 23 in, and I was at the Habanero 100. And I ran out of money, ran out of shoes, ran out of everything. I threw up a post on Facebook saying I had to stop. And then there was this Marine Ultra running group that came to the rescue, and they donated probably close to $10,000 and like 9 sets of shoes to me.
Wow.
And then I proceeded to finish my next 12 weekends in a row until I went down with the hip injury. So
Hmm.
I ended up with 35 of them in 10 months.
And the goal was
Jeez.
40, 41. Is that what the goal was?
The goal was 42, but this was also the
42.
same year that Mike Ortiz and Walter Hanloser were out there. And Walter absolutely ran away with it. He ended up with 50.
Jeez.
I remember
And
that.
then last year, I guess Ed wanted revenge, so he got his record back. So Ed ended up doing 56.
Wow.
So now the record's a little out of reach right now, but
Yeah, that's insane.
yeah,
Not
So
sure if
so
full time runner paid.
I'm looking through some of your 2019 results, and you didn't pick just easy ones. Like you picked pretty difficult ones. I mean, you have some.
no,
I wouldn't say any 100 is easy, but there's some that are flatter. But you have like Mogollon Monster and the
Jeez.
Georgia
yeah, that was
Jewel.
probably
Like,
the hardest one I finished that year.
yeah, you have some monsters on there. Like,
And then
what what was the idea of doing?
double top 100 was also a bad one too. That one had quite a bit of gain. I believe it was 29,000 feet, something like that. But I wasn't really looking at whether it was easy or not. I was just looking at like available races for the weekends. And since I'm on the East Coast, and since this was very very expensive to do, I don't even have an exact figure. Like I almost went broke doing it. But yeah, that year I looked primarily like my you know first I would look for like availability of races. Sometimes there would be two or three to a weekend. Sometimes there'd be weekends without them. But my main focus was finding stuff like at a geographical location that I could get to by car for the most part, or basically like a cheap airport to fly into. For example, I think I'm trying to remember. I know there was one weekend where they had the Strawberry Fields Forever 100 up in Washington State, and then I think that same weekend there was one in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. So I obviously picked Connecticut because I could drive to it versus having to pay $700 for a flight up to Washington. So not even including rental car or any of that stuff. So I mean, my main focus that year was just like affordability, pretty much. And then I was also still working full time in between because I work as a personal trainer. So, I would have days where I would cross the finish line on Sunday. First objective was to get rid of the rental car, dump it off at the airport before I got into an accident with it. Yeah, because I'm driving around. I'm driving back to the airport, and my hands would start freezing and cramping up, and like I would be palming the steering wheel because I couldn't hold on to it. And then, yeah, and then I would get on the plane. I ended up landing in New York like at midnight or so, and then I would have to take the depending on whether I landed in LaGuardia or JFK, depending on my travel. So usually I would end up having to take the train back and get as close to my apartment as possible, and then I would either walk or take an Uber back. Most of the time, I'd end up walking because if I can get back to the local train station, it was like 2 miles from my apartment. I would end up getting home at 3. I would dive into bed for like an hour, and then I would have like my first client at 5 a.m. on Monday morning,
Jeez.
and then I would try to take a nap at some point during the day. But if you're familiar with how personal training works, like you don't really work 8 hours. It's just like scattered throughout the day.
Mhm.
So my average day was like 5 a.m. till 9 p.m. And
Man,
then Friday I would only have my morning clients, and then I would hop on a plane or hop in the car and go to wherever I had to go. Like the craziest one was probably the Love 100 in Arkansas that had a Friday night start time. So with that one, I landed in Little Rock I think the race started at, if I'm not mistaken, like 7 p.m. So I landed in Little Rock at 3, drove directly to the race venue, got my packet and everything, and then started the race. And then after I finished, drove back to the airport. So there was no hotels involved that weekend. But
That's
yeah,
wild.
that was pretty much my life the entire year 2019. I was just hopping in and out of planes, like working in full time in between, and then it was just rinse, wash, repeat the entire year until my hip joint degraded so much that I had to stop.
Yeah. If you could put a ballpark on it, like price wise, what do you think that you would spend, throughout the entire year?
For that, I have no idea. Probably 20, 30,000 maybe at least.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
was
crazy.
I got a lot of support doing it too. I got like donations from, like a lot from Facebook and stuff. And then, I also had a couple of companies help me out. I was sponsored by a physical therapist, which was awesome because he would fix me in between.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah, so they worked on my mobility and deep tissue therapy and everything. But after a while, I would go there and he would just come up to me. He's like, dude, there's nothing I could do for you. You're just like an inflamed mess. I can't do any deep tissue work because you're already just destroyed.
Yeah,
So it just ended up turning into like light stretching sessions and stuff like that, though. But they made sure I was taken care of in between. So, they covered a few of the entry fees. My gym also gave me a little bit of money, the one I was working at. I had various like local businesses and stuff help out, but because as a personal trainer, I would never be able to do that on my own. It's very because it was very costly. And then I was wearing at the time I was using Ultra Olympuses, so even Ultra sent me a few sets of shoes and everything.
that's cool. Yeah,
So they
that's
helped me out
cool.
a little bit towards the end of it. But like in the beginning, I was mostly on my own. I got most of the support towards the end when I said I had to drop. I just had such a huge following. People wanted to see me get through it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, like I said, I've been, following you along since 2019 and crazy to, to finally have you on a podcast and get to talk about it because I was intrigued. Like, honestly, I ran my first ultra in 2019, and that kind of, you definitely kind of sparked some of the interest, if not a lot of the interest, and you know, pushing me into where I am today. So it's pretty cool to make a full circle. So
Definitely.
after 2019, you didn't do a lot of ultras. I mean, you had a few sprinkled in here and there, but you would run like, half marathons, 15Ks. You'd have a couple 50Ks here and there, but not anything like 100-mile distance. What was, and I remember you writing on like social media that you were going to focus more on like your strength and, maybe put running in the background a little bit, but you kind of like you were going after this big lofty goal of 100 milers, and then all of a sudden it just like it stopped.
Yeah, so I ended up wearing down the cartilage in my right hip to the point where I was like bone on bone. So I completely destroyed my right hip joint. So I had severe osteoarthritis and everything. And it was like a 5-year battle with the VA to get it fixed because I only had the surgery like last year. So I mean, obviously, depending on which Facebook account you followed me on, because also if I don't remember where you followed me initially, whether it be Facebook or Instagram.
I can't remember. Probably Instagram, to be honest with you.
Okay, yeah, because my Billy the Trainer account also got hacked like in 2022, so I disappeared from that.
Yeah.
So the one that I found you on recently, that's my newer one.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, it probably was the other one that I was following you on then.
Yeah, the Billy the Trainer account. Yeah, that one doesn't exist anymore. No. But yeah, so I went down with this injury and I went to the VA and the VA just simply told me to stop running. And
Yeah.
I go to them like, well, why can't you do the surgery? They're like, well, the only choice you have is to replace the hip, and you're too young to do it because I was 37 at the time. So they're like, you either have to be in your mid 50s or it has to be an emergency. So I was like, all right, screw you guys. I'm going to continue to go anyway. So I kind of got out of like the ultra world for a little bit and I fell more into like the Spartan racing element of things. Yeah, because with Spartan racing, you're mostly climbing mountains and stuff. The running's broken up with the obstacles and stuff like that though. So it took a little pressure off the hip. So I went that route for a little while. So 2021, because obviously COVID hit in 2020, so pretty much like everything was off the radar. So 2021, I went mostly Spartan race, and then 2022 I continued with that. And then at the end of 2022, my mom passed away. You know, I actually needed the surgery badly at the end of 2022. The VA was still resisting me on it, so I was like, all right. I want to do something at a world level for my mom's. Spartan's got something called the trifecta. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the trifecta is where you do the sprint, the super, and the beast within the same year.
Hmm.
Well, I thought to myself, okay, so 2023 in her honor, I'm going to go out and set that world record. So I didn't get the record at the time. I got the most by a male athlete because there's a female athlete that holds the world record. So 2023, I ended up going to like 18 different countries. I carried the flag through them all, and I ran 32 Spartan trifectas. I did a total of 158 races, all with a hip that was like fused.
Jeez.
I mean, it was practically fused. Like I literally had the course sweepers going after me, asking if I needed a doctor, and I kept telling them to get away from me. So, in Europe, I was like the last one to finish. In the US, I was like in the 50th percentile, if that says anything, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up doing that, and then at the time I said it wasn't really like an official record. I just kind of ran with it, but I was like the men's top guy for trifectas for a little bit, and then that was broken last year. Because like obviously Spartan threw more races out there, but yeah, I had to go to like 18 different countries to do that. And then 2024, yeah, it took them all the way until July to get the surgery done. From like December of 23 till July of 24. So like I fought them tooth and nail on it, and they just kept delaying the date, delaying the date. And then in the midst of that, I was still doing stuff. I was rucking through races since I couldn't run them. somehow adding a 45-pound rucksack realigned my hips, so I was able to move a little bit better than I was without it. I don't know why that is, but I guess it's just a changing gait pattern.
Yeah, that's
But
weird.
I ended up that year, a couple months before surgery. I did 11 marathons in 11 states in 11 days, and I ended up raising about $3,000 for this charity called Operation Vest. Operation Vest is an acronym that stands for Veterans Ending Suicide Together. So it is a local charity that provides funding to provide counseling services for veterans. So I did that, and then I just kept doing like anything I could, just to because I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I was just kind of I was still running in honor of my mom and everything. And the last race I did was like a week before surgery. It was a 5K. It took me an hour and a half to walk it. Like my hip
Jeez.
had just gotten so bad at that point. But a month or so before I got the operation done, I went to the VA for an appointment, and I finally saw a younger surgeon who was a little bit more on the athletic side. And he took a look at my x-rays. He's like, your bone density is still pretty good here. You might not need a replacement. You might be eligible for a resurface, but we don't do that at the VA. So I'm going to put you through community care and have you talk to an outside doctor and see what they say. When I actually had the consult with the outside doctor goes to me, he's like, all right, everything that the VA told you was a lie. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to get fixed. And he just sits me down and he's like, look, you're absolutely eligible for a resurface because your bone density and everything's good. He's like, look, I can get you back to the sport that you want to do. Just promise me you won't run or jump for 6 months. And I was like, because now I got somebody on my side that's willing to work with me. If the VA fixed me and they told me never to run again, I probably would have ran like a month later and broken my leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that people in the medical field don't seem to understand. Like, if you have an athlete that you're working with and you're like, look, I can't guarantee you anything, but like, let's say I give you 6 months, just don't do this, and there's a possibility that you could be fine. They build hope in you. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
Mhm.
if you actually had a doctor that's willing to be on your side and work versus telling you you're never going to do that again, you'd probably have a lot better recoveries and everything, coming off the operating table and everything. So, but, yeah, I followed his advice. I mean, I still did races and stuff, but I just rocked them because he gave me the green light to throw on a backpack and walk. So, I did that. And yeah, because I mean, for me though, like with the flag in the pack, it's a little bit more of a greater cause, because I do it to honor people that I've lost and everything. And then I carry the pack to symbolize the emotional weight that veterans carry with them, like when they come back, because not all wounds and everything are visible. We carry like a lot of mental scars and stuff. But and then I carry the flag just to honor the troops and everything.
How you were in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I was actually in two branches. I did my first 4 years in the Marines, and then I had a 6 year gap, and then I went to the Army to attempt Special Forces, and then I finished out with the 82nd Airborne.
How long were you in total?
I was total 7 years active.
Oh, okay. Sweet. Yeah, I'm 19 years active. Over 19.
Awesome,
Yeah, I'm Air Force.
awesome. Still serving though.
Yep, still serving. That's why I'm in Alaska.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they send you some to some crazy places, so.
Yeah, you guys got the good duty stations. I was in North Carolina both times. And
Yeah,
legion with the Marines and brag with the Army.
I've had some good spots. I'm not complaining at all. So, yeah, 2026, I'll hit 20 years, so time to decide what
Nice.
I wanna do when I grow up, so.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard part, trying to figure out what you can do when you get out.
Yep, that's 100% it. Well, hey, Billy, talk to us about this project you got going on right now in 25. I know I've heard a little bit of rumors, but the best person to hear it from is right out of the horse's mouth. So tell us what you got going on.
Okay, so I have a couple of directions I can go here. So, I wasn't sure like what exactly, I could do with the hip and everything. So, I got clearance to run back in January. So, I started off slow, and then first I did a couple 50Ks. But I mean, I did take about a month or so before that. I did some local races. I did some regular running. Just trying to get the hip moving. I mean, it's still not 100%. I still walk around with a little bit of a limp. Because they said it would take over a year or so to get rid of that. And also
Mhm.
too, I suffered for like 5 years, so I have to. I'm still retraining myself how to walk normally.
Yeah.
But back in April, one of my friends kind of pressured me to do the CNO Canal 100. And then I didn't really argue with him. I just kind of like. I'm very easy to convince to do stuff like that. I'm like, no, I can't do it. He's like, come on, man. I'm like, all right. So I ended up finishing it in like 29 hours. So I beat the cutoff. It was the first 100 back. And then after that I did a few marathons and stuff like that. And then I came up with another task for charity. So I did something similar to what I did in 2024, only this time I did the 50K bump up. And the goal, I don't even know if it would have been a world record. I didn't find anything on it, but I started it out with a 50-pound rucksack. But the idea was to do 11 50Ks in 11 states in 11 days wearing a 50-pound rucksack. And I was just going to walk it all because it was through the series called Mainly Marathons, so they'd all be official and stuff. But mainly marathons, they don't have like time cutoff. Well, they don't have time cutoffs for the marathon, but they have it for the 50K.
Mhm.
So the 50K, it's 9.5 hours unless there's still marathoners out on the course. So the
Mm.
marathon's what dictates the absolute cutoff for the 50K. So like if they have, because they have a lot of guys that are riddled with injuries that do like 10, 11 hour marathons. So if there's still a dude out there on his marathon, they'll allow you to go out for more laps on the 50K. So I finished the first two 50Ks, no problem. Then the third day, I got cut at a marathon distance because the heat got to me too much. Because if you're familiar with wearing a 50-pound rucksack, it's like wearing a winter coat.
Yeah.
So it was probably about 90, 95 degrees in exposed sun with no shade on asphalt. So it just wrecked me. So I ended up stopping at 26.2 because they wouldn't let me go out anymore because they had to get to the next state because obviously all these are in different states. So after that, I finished out the remaining 50Ks without the gear. So I ended up doing 10 50Ks in a marathon in 11 days. But only this time around, I raised over $5,000 for charity, though, because I got my job involved with it and everything. Where the last one, I had to kind of keep it hidden from my job because they didn't really support what I was doing. But after I got through that, though, it was kind of crazy because I started out like I wasn't planning on running any of them because I was concerned about preserving my hips. So I just rucked the first three, and then I started the fourth one out with a ruck, and then I'm like, you know what? I got cut at a marathon on day three, so why am I even carrying this ruck? So after I got done with the first lap, I dropped the ruck and then I just ran through it. But it was kind of funny though because I kind of found my stride as I was doing those 11 50Ks. So each one got faster and faster, and day 10 was my fastest one.
Wow.
So I went from like averaging 8.5 hours down to 6 hours by the time day 10 hit. And then day 11 was my I don't want to get injured day. So I did a lot of walking on day 11 just because it was like the end of the series. But that started to kind of convince me. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll sign up for another 100-mile race. So I signed up for the Ocean State Ultra in Rhode Island, and I got through that one no problem. So after that one, I couldn't go too far with the streak because I had already made plans to do a charity ruck with a county legislator. This was maybe like 3 weeks ago. But I ended up thinking to myself, okay, let me see how far I can take this. So I ended up finishing 5 100s in 5 weekends. And then after that one, I came back, and then that's when I did the Cowboy 100 after that. And then I was supposed to do another 100 this weekend, but that got canceled due to the weather. And yeah, so basically what I'm working on now is I have several different goal sets. It's not just one anymore. I want to try to hit Ed's record again next year. Again, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I've got a fundraiser link up, but who knows what I'll raise, or who knows if I could even do it because 56 is a very lofty number.
Yeah,
Because
that's
there's only
insane.
52 weekends in a year, so I'd have to find a couple of multi-day festivals. like across the years, for example. And then there's a couple of others where you could potentially pull off double buckles or triple buckles or whatever. But I gotta figure that all into the plan. I mean, right now, like I plotted out the first 6 months, and I picked the top registration cost for each week when factoring it in. I didn't bother with the lower ones, but right now it's looking at like $8,500 just for the first 6 months. So I don't know where I'm going to come up with that. But anyway, outside of that, that's one direction. I was thinking of trying to break Ed's record again. The other direction, since I'm on 53 total 100-mile finishes right now, I might just try to get 100 100s by the end of next year and just call it at that. And then the third goal, which probably would get hit in the course of it anyway, is I want to try to get a 100-miler in all 50 states.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that'd be really
I
cool.
want to try to
You
I want to
gotta
try
be
to do
close to that.
that. I gotta look. I think I'm last I checked, I think I was at 26. I don't
Oh,
remember if
okay.
I counted I got a spreadsheet with X's marked off next to the states I've done. So I
Got
think
you.
last time I counted it was 26. It might be up to 28 now. But
You have to come up and run a winter 100 up here in Alaska.
that sounds brutal.
Can't do a
I mean,
summer
hey,
one.
I mean,
You gotta do a winter
sometimes
one.
you can't be picky with what's available. Sometimes you just have to roll. I mean, that's what happened in 2019 because a lot of those 100s were awful.
Yeah, yeah.
I just had to roll with what I had.
So we'll move into a little bit of some lighter questions. I just been jotting questions down as I've been going on, and just some things that I'm
Okay.
just curious about. What do you do with all your buckles? You have 53 finishes, and I'm not sure if all ones give buckles. All 53 of them did, but what do you do
Well, I
with?
mean, most of them did. Pine Creek, the first time I ran it, they gave a coffee mug, but the second time I ran it, they gave a buckle. Viaduct, they gave a railroad spike, and then yeah, for the most part, other than that, they all gave buckles. I mean, I don't really have a specific location for them. A lot of my medals and buckles and stuff, I just have in like bins right now because I mean, I live in a one-bedroom apartment, so I don't have like my own house or anything. I mean, that's part of the reason that I can do this stuff is because I'm very, I don't, I don't have like a family or anything like that. I just live by myself in an apartment. And then, but when all's said and done, when I finally do decide to get a house, I'll probably hang them all up on display. But like for right now, what I do is like each year I have an ottoman in my apartment that I drape a flag over, and I'll put down the medals that I got for the current year, just so I could take a picture of it like weekly, for like social media posts and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So like when I did all those 100s in 2019, I just kept them spread out over a flag, and then every week I would just take a picture of the display, and then I would monotonously take that picture and do text edits and put dates underneath all of them. So it takes me quite a bit of time to do, but
Yeah, that's great. What is your favorite 100 been? And I know that's probably tough to, because like there's the support that you get from races, there's the views that you get, there's the
yeah.
memories that you have for specific ones. But what is your overall favorite 100 that you've run?
My favorite one was probably the Mogollon Monster, just because it went through all sorts of different like ecosystems and everything. Because like you started out in the woods, then you're in the desert for a little bit, then you're in the mountains, and then you finished up in the town, and you just kept alternating between them. And that race was actually pretty interesting though, because there were target shooters out on the course somewhere. I know because there was a group of us running down the mountain and we heard ricochets and high pitched cracks. So, there were obviously bullets coming in our direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of funny though, because I get through 7 years in the military and here I am about to get shot at an ultra marathon. But
In Arizona.
yeah, it was just a cool race though, just because you got to see many different things. And
Yeah.
I remember driving back to Phoenix to dump the rental car off and looking in my rearview mirror. And it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, though. There was this one mountain with like two clouds floating over it, and they were zapping the mountain with lightning bolts. It looked like two spaceships were attacking it. Like it was one of those things where I wish I could have pulled my over and pulled my camera out, but I had a flight to catch. So, my priority was getting home.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was one of those cool things where I just could have video recorded though, because it was just like an awesome sight to look at. And then on the flip side, most recently, the most psychologically taxing race was probably the Cowboy 100. Not so much during the race itself, it was just like towards the finish. Like you cross this bridge and then you have about 2 miles till you hit the town, but the town looks like it's a quarter mile away. So it's one of those things where you're going straight down this crushed limestone road, and it just looks like the town's getting further and further away as you're running towards it. And it's just such a mind killer like towards the end of the race. But then, and not only that though, but the temperature was starting to climb because I was on the second day. And I mean, all in all, I like that race, but like the end of it was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure I'll
Yeah,
go
it
back
was
to
hot.
it again.
It was hot at that one for sure. Like that's what
Yeah.
smoked both of us. So you mentioned, psychological. What are your mantras that you use when you hit a low? Because I mean, running all these back to back to back, you have to, go into them sometimes already at a low. But when you're 60, 70, 80 miles in, like when you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like what gets you through to the finish?
Yeah, no, I really never had a specific mantra. Recently, I mean, after waiting all those years and going through all that pain and suffering with my right hip, and now that the pain's gone, like it just doesn't bother me as much anymore. Like, the last 4 or 5 races I went into, I just didn't even have quitting on my mind. I just went into it and just trudged through it and got it done. Like just right from the beginning, I was like, yeah, I should be finished in X amount of hours, and I just ended up finishing. I mean, the hardest part with these things is just getting through the night. And like the flat ones, the monotony gets broken up though, because like back in the day, I used to run a mile, walk a minute, run a mile, walk, carry that out for the first like 50 to 60 miles. And then I would alter my pace or I'd alter my strategy depending on how I felt. And then I would always have trouble like getting through the night because I overexerted in the beginning. But the past few flat races I've done, I've set a timer on my watch for like a 6 minute run, 3 minute walk. And then I've carried that strategy out the entire way. And then stuff that's on gnarly terrain. I mean, obviously, I just power hike the ups and run the downhills and flats. But I just kind of get into like this deep like flow state. I don't really have like a mantra per se. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. Well, cool. We usually end all of our podcasts with a couple questions about some of the stuff that you use. So,
Okay.
what kind of nutrition are you using?
I use mostly what's at the aid stations right now.
Okay.
Keep going though. I mean, I shouldn't really promote it, but I am an ibuprofen guy. Yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
helps me get through the races a little bit though. So I usually like depending on the course layout. If it's a lap course, I'll use a drop bag and I'll throw a bunch of energy drinks in there. And then usually I'll do like an energy drink and like 2 to 3 ibuprofen every like 20 miles or 5 hours, whichever one comes later. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to make sure I have at least like a 5 hour break in between, so I keep it spread out. And then throughout the race, I used to do water on my Camelback, but now I always do sports drink. And as I got smarter about how nutrition works, though, because I mean, as a trainer, like obviously I have access to resources and stuff, and I got a few more nutrition certifications and stuff. I came to realize that your body burns through glucose that's digested before it taps its glycogen stores, which is a storage form. So if you constantly keep a steady flow of sugar going through your body, you're less likely to hit a wall because your body just burns that up first. Started going, whatever sports drink they offer at the race, whether it be Gatorade, Scratch, Heat, whatever they got. I'll load my Camelback up with that, and then I'll drink that throughout the race. And then, as far as the nutrition, like I said, I'll grab whatever's at the aid stations. So I try to not go hungry. There's been a few aid stations like the Ocean State Ultra in Rhode Island where I just survived off nothing but like gummy bears and Cheetos because they didn't have much of a selection of food. So that one, I mean, I got through it, but it was more. I mean, I didn't really have a problem like hitting a wall or anything. I was just very hungry. But Yeah, I mean, I also whenever I train fasted, and I don't necessarily put in a high amount of mileage either. Um, yeah, most I'll ever run during a training run is 10 miles, but at the same time, like, I've been very restricted for time lately. Because also too, with those distances, I mean, if you're not training to, like, win the race, you're just training to, like, get through them. Like, I've always found the strategy of just clustering my runs on back-to-back days when my legs are sore,
Hmm.
kinda manipulates that feeling like you're going through 100, especially, like, if not even running, but, like, if you hit a brutal leg workout at the gym to where you're sore for, like, 2 days or so, and then you try to run after that, it kinda mimics it a little bit. So that's kinda helped me. And then, also too, I kinda indirectly trained for it back in June when I did those, 11:50 or the 10:50 Ks in a marathon in 11 days. That kinda beat my legs up and got me ready, and they just kinda primed them because I did that in June, and then I did the Ocean State Ultra in July, and then I started the 5 weekends in a row in September, and then I just most recently did or August rather, August into September. And then, I just so I pretty much kinda trained indirectly for it.
Yeah, yeah. What you mentioned you were running in ultras. Are you still running Ultra Olympus?
Not right now. I've been using, um I used Brooks for the 1150 Ks and, like, if I do, like, a road type race. And then I've actually used, Hoka Speed Goats, like, the last few trail races. So, those did me pretty good.
Nice, nice.
I mean, I don't have any issues with ultras. I just ended up using Hokas, because it's just what I got used to with the surgery and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Billy, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. It's been a blast talking to you. I've been wanting to hear your story for a long time, and so it's been great to finally get the answers that I've wanted for since 2019.
No, absolutely. No,
Hey,
thank you for having me on.
yeah, for sure. Hey, tell everybody where they can find you. Tell us what your fundraiser out there. Like, how can people find the fundraiser to donate?
Yeah, so, I can be found on Instagram as, Billy the Ultra Beast. Ultra Beast is basically, the name of a Spartan race that doesn't exist anymore. It was the, 30-mile Spartan, well, it still exists, but I got rebranded as just the Spartan Ultra, but it used to be called the Spartan Ultra Beast. So, Billy the Ultra Beast, just one word, no underscores, no nothing. That's my, Instagram. Facebook, I'm just using my, regular profile now. I know I had a 100-mile Slayer one back when I was, chasing that record in 2019, but right now I'm just using my personal one. Yeah, that's just, Billy Richards. I got a blue check on it to show that it's mine, and I did that to all my profiles after I got hacked. And then, the GoFundMe link is gofundme.com/Billy100.
Okay, cool. And we'll
Nice
link
and
that in
easy
the
to
show
remember.
notes. So if it make it easy for somebody to find it, awesome. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. It's been great. If you liked Billy's podcast, please leave us a like, leave us a review. We need more reviews on Spotify. We need more reviews on Apple. This helps get our podcast out. And we've been doing this for 3 years. We're grinding it out. Show us some love, give us some comments. And as always, we'll see you on the trails.